Everybody, these are our directions for our room project that you're going to be doing. This is a really nice, challenging project where you're going to be drawing a scale model of your room from your plans that you brought from home. And here would be an example of a completed room that I drew. I just want to show you one thing, and that is down here in the Paint Tools, they have a much better way of doing this than they did in the room tutorial that you did previously. The Paint Tool is right down here in the large tool set, and you can see what it does when you put it on here. And what it'll basically do is it'll make that wall disappear for you to draw your room with, and that way you can see inside your room really easy. If you remember when you did the first room tutorial, they simply had you knock a wall out so that you could see in your room. The problem is then you can't do what you need to do on these two walls that have been knocked out. So at any rate, that Paint Tool right down here is a way to get inside your room. Now when you draw your room, you're going to basically be doing it just like you have at home with all the dimensions, and then you're going to want to bring in things from the component library, which I'll show you how to use, and I've got a bed in there. You won't be able to find stuff that looks exactly like your stuff, but you should have all the stuff that's in your room. If you have a bed and a dresser, that's what you can have. You should have, that's what I've got here. Now that is the completion of your room, but we're not done. When we're finished with this part of your room, what we're going to do is we're going to make a copy of your room so you can modify it. And that's what this is, and your modification has a couple things you have to do. So here is my modified room from here. And you can see the main room in this, and what I've done is I've punched a hole in the ceiling right there, and I've put a deck on it. And the deck actually has some tricky things with it. And you can't do any of these parts with the component library. They must be drawn. The first thing your deck needs all the way around it is a rail. This is a tricky thing to draw, and it uses a tool called the Array Tool, which I show you in another movie. But you're going to want to watch the Array Tool movie. It's simple to use and it doesn't take long, but it's really important for making these kind of rails and line. And yours doesn't have to look exactly like mine. Mine is actually pretty complex with a lot of curved lines and things like that in it. And you can play with those if you really get into this. But if you just mainly need to have some sort of a rail and that goes around your whole deck. You also need to have a ladder that goes from the bottom to the top in your room, and that also cannot be drawn from the component library. You can get ladders in the component library, but I know what they all look like, so you've got to draw your own and place it in there. Now all of this came from the component library, and you can definitely make your deck look nice with things from the component library, but you can't use the component library for the rail or the ladder. Those have to be done by doing the drawing. Okay, and then the final thing that you may be able to see on this that you've not seen yet is all of these little things right up here that say scene, starts at scene 1 through 10. When you're all done with your drawing, I'm going to want you to make these scenes, and I'll show you how to do that, but they're really cool. They kind of make a PowerPoint through your drawing. So at any rate, when I hit scene 1, it takes me there. When I hit scene 2, walk me there. Scene 3, scene 4 lets me start looking around my room. Scene 5, Scene 7, I go up my ladder. Scene 8, I kind of look out of my ladder, see what my deck looks like. Then I climb up my ladder, and on my last scene. Now I want to show you how to make these scenes. They're really simple. You simply go to the window tab, and you go to scenes, and this box is going to pop up. And all you got to do is hit the plus button. So I got to move a little bit to make a new scene. So I'm going to move around in my picture here a bit, and I'll just change my view, and I'll go over here, and I'll kind of walk over to this rail right here. And then I'm going to hit create a scene. I'll say yes, and now you can see it's added an 11th scene here. So let me minimize that. I'm going to go back to a scene you've already seen, which was where I came up my ladder. You saw that. You saw that. And here's the scene that I just added where I walked over to this side. So the scene tool is very easy to use, and when I grade this, I will ask you to walk me through your scenes And you should have probably about like what I have here, somewhere in the 9, 10, 11, 12 scene, depending on how fancy your deck is and the like. So that's the main one. And when I grade this project, what I'm going to be looking at largely is I'm going to be looking at your rails to make sure a couple things happen. And one is that your rails are evenly spaced out. You don't have some grouped together, and that's really easy to do with the array tool, which I have movies on another, which I have another movie for. So before you start this, or while you're working on it, watch the array tool. So you're done with this when you have your original house right over here, and then you've made a copy of it. You've made your room with a deck. You've done the border around your deck. You've made a ladder to get up to your deck, and then you've gone into the component library to get some neat stuff to look at for your deck. And you know how to use the component library by now. So that's it. Have fun with your room project.